you shared a post recently like about a video game, like playing war games is way different than being at war, because playing war game is voluntarily played,
Exactly.
and you can quit the game. You cannot quit war.
Yeah, that's a very relevant topic in video games. You know, there are a lot of video games dealing with war because there's a lot of games dealing with war, because every kid in a certain moment of his life or her life play somehow something dealing with a fight. Be it with Lego and Darth Vader against Luke Skywalker beating each other, be it with your finger playing cowboys and Indians, whatever, but it's in there. We can question a lot ourselves whether it is right or not, but it's in there. It's in the human nature somehow. One of the people will say that humans should put any effort in keeping this very much under control, but you cannot deny that it's in our nature. No? It doesn't mean that it's justified, of course, but it's there. So from one side, I think that playing, an interesting, as in English they use exactly the same word, playing. Uh, Playing a fight is a good way to put down some pressure out of it, meaning that you can stage a fight. You put a fight on a theater, play. And you use a game to do it, play. It's funny as in English it's the same word, the same verb they use to say play as play a game and play as stage something on a theater. And this is the part of myself coming from literary classical studies, learned many years ago that when Greek people invented theater in the way it's meant in the Western world, that was exactly the reason why they did it, you know, to put on stage their fears, their darker parts, their unsolved problems, and to recognize and acknowledge all of them in front of the community. Mm-hmm. Theater is the place where I can talk about my mother killing a son, or I can talk about the God killing someone just because, and it's unfair, but it is what it is. That's the safe space where we can put things that we don't like about ourselves, but they still are there. Mm-hmm. And it's a play. So games are pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. And video games as well, I would say, you know. It's not that since I play some shooting game, then I would go out and shoot people. Even though someone say this, it has been researched a lot of times, that still there's no scientific evidence that proves that if you are playing shooter games, then in some way you are more inclined to go outside and kill people.
I read this McGonagall book, and what struck me is that this huge difference, like almost irrelevant if it's about cooperation. So it could be a war game or shooter game, but if I really find connection with people within the game, it's like playing any other game. When I try to hit someone with a ball or play football or whichever, and there's a huge difference regarding alienation or being alone. If I don't have this connection and there's no evidence to shooter games directly coding.
Also, if you play alone and you play some kind of shooter game alone, it's anyway, it does not mean that you have like homicidal tendencies or you go and kill people. No, that's really not proved, because people instead go on and on claiming this. Every time some guy picks up a Uzi gun and kill people in the States, they blame video game. I would say probably the first thing to blame is that you can buy an Uzi machine in your supermarket, maybe. But this is never questioned, and it's fault of the games anyway.
I think it's kind of complex issue that we try to simplify when we assume this. It sounds like if I go to the theater and play a murderer as a role, I would be a murderer then later on.
You see, no, because that space has been sacred and identified as the place where this thing could happen for centuries. The video games, it's really young and new, so it's still a place where a lot of people have to figure out what's happening inside. What I think is that video games are very interesting because they happen in a space where there is no presence, physical presence as bodies, I mean, but they are probably the only, but anyway, one of the few experiences happening in this kind of environment in which you can easily feel emotions, even though if you are not there physically. No? And this is something that really strikes me. We are not there. We blame everything digital because it's detached from our personal physical experience. But then video game is a place which, although being detached and far from our physical reality, we can feel emotions, be it anger for losing a game, or surprise for a twist in the story, or happiness because something unexpected came out of your actions or whatever. But it's very easy to identify emotions in video games. And it's, I guess, one of the few aspects of the digital world in which this can happen.
Context matters. Dialogue is important. The context for this clip is a podcast episode. You can access that conversation at the link in the description. If you are interested in similar content, follow us on our platforms. If you would like to support us in creating content, you can contribute by giving us your feedback or support. You will also find links to these in the description. Thank you for stopping by.